Half-Life is a video game series which has become more famous not for what it is, but for what it isn't, a trilogy. Whenever somebody talks about Half-Life, they seem compelled to tell you that the releases of each game caused some of the most revolutionary moments in gaming history, and they're all absolutely correct. Half-Life 1 single-handedly proved that shooters could have stories which are great by their own merit. A 3D ecosystem of life that truly reacts to the player and makes smart decisions to make sure that you are thinking as much as you're shooting, and how a silent protagonist can be stretched out to a method of an entire storytelling philosophy, where less is more, with mysteries which have compelled people to ruminate for decades. In such a creative and clever work of art, philosophy can be extracted and analysed at every level. Big fans of the series and its development will know two key things to keep in mind: that emphasis on communication was always to be done visually, and that the writing team was just one man, Mark Laidlaw. The visual emphasis might sound redundant. Video games are a visual and tactile form of media after all. But in the late 90s, the done thing for shooters was for world building to be done in hefty game manuals on the back of box art or in spin-off comic book series. The game itself was left only for doing the adrenaline thrill stuff, usually killing demons. It was believed that games could only do in-media world building if they were full of text to give sufficient exposition of the people, places, and plot. This worked fine in RPGs and point-and-clicks, but nobody knew how to tell a fleshed-out story within a shooter without ruining the pace and excitement. In 1996, Valve were upstarts as much as they were a startup. Bored of working at Microsoft, Gabe Newell and Mike Harrington left to make their mark and overthrow the FPS industry, which at the time was known as merely a factory for churning out clones of Doom and Quake, both series created by id Software. The way they were going to kick the industry into gear was by creating an experience that was both tangible and cerebral. Gabe Newell himself was pioneering the philosophy within Valve that the fun of the game should come from the world acknowledging the player in a greater sense than just enemies spotting you and running towards you. Friendly NPCs would have their own little lives and tasks. They would speak to each other and to you. You could operate the vending machines and even nuke a colleague's lunch.
My God, what are you doing?
These are things we now take for granted, but even such small details as creating your own bullet holes in the wall were done here first and for a very specific reason. In what could seem like yet another bland story of good humans versus bad aliens, the active involvement of the real human behind the fictional human main character was prioritized above everything else. Woven into every piece of the game, its design and its themes is a human fingerprint over a digital machine, and from the very get-go, this sets us up to look at what philosophy is being told to us. The age-old and tireless exploration of what a human is and what it means to be one. Now, I'm just about to get into the good bits of my philosophical thesis, but before I do, I'd like to take 1 minute for some announcements. I'm jump-starting getting back into regular content creation, and that will include 2 new things: a second channel and a support method. With my Starship Troopers video, I promised a stream of Helldivers 2, but my computer's current setup sadly couldn't handle that. It can, however, handle Black Mesa, the fan-made remaster of Half-Life, so I'll be streaming that for a few hours on this channel on Sunday the 25th, starting at 8 PM GMT and 3 PM EST, so come hang out. The VOD will go on the second channel, as well as a video explaining my plans in full. And I used to accept donations monthly through Subscribestar, but when I stopped being able to produce content regularly, I felt guilty for that. So for now, if you would like to support my work through a donation and with a message, you can buy me a coffee. All links will be in a pinned comment. In the Aristotelian tradition, man is famously a rational animal. We share the nutritive function with animals and plants, a need to sustain our lives. We share the instinctive function of sentient animals, the ability to react to the environment around us and actively seek out our immediate survival needs. But we stand alone in being able to think ahead and question. This alone is the function which enables these videos to be made and watched, while there are no cows making or watching video essays on MooTube, as cool as that would be. It can be argued that up to the late 90s, shooter games only got as far as engaging our instinctive function. You're put in a dangerous situation, and between you and escape are hostile creatures and life-sustaining items. Defeat the threats, stay alive, and get out. Half-Life completed the full integration of the human faculty into shooters. As I've alluded to, thinking ahead and questioning had already been part of video games more broadly, but don't forget that Fallout, a pivotal example, was released only 1 year prior to Half-Life. Fallout took the RPG genre to a new level, but Half-Life took the FPS genre to a level that people didn't even think was possible. The game's tagline was run, think, shoot, move. Your uniquely human cognitive power would be tested as much as your fine motor skills and threat response. By having a successful silent protagonist, Valve didn't simply address the problem of storytelling, they flipped it on its head and made it the solution. Environmental storytelling was a new idea at the time, again because narrative was mostly thought of in terms of exposition. But what about implication?
Because of the implication.
Okay.
Why did this routine experiment go so badly wrong? Why are the aliens hostile? What do they want out of this? And why do those ones wear those bracelets? Are they all just sentient and instinctual, or are they also rational? Most of all, who the heck is this guy? For me, the greatest fun to come from Half-Life 1 is trying to actually answer these brief but existential questions and all the others you're presented with, even if you don't know it. Why should they just be left at their face value, or deemed unworthy or too mystical to answer? Some do get answered, such as finding out in Half-Life 2 Episode 1 that it was the G-Man after all who provided the unstable Zen crystal which caused the resonance cascade, only giving you even more questions. Why? What was in it for him? Why did he want all of this to happen? Myths are the narratives of primordial truths. Stories which seek to understand the parts of reality and humanity which we would otherwise never be able to understand. The most persistent reoccurring myth of all is the one which tries to explain why evil exists and how it came into our world. Around 700 BC, Hesiod told us the story of Pandora, the first human woman, made out of clay, left in charge of a vessel gifted to her by Zeus, who ordered her to never open it. Tempted by her own curiosity, she relented and looked inside. Unforeseen consequences follow. She unleashed the spirits of sadness, pain, disease, hate, and every manner of evil into the once unblemished world. But Hephaestus, humanity's greatest sympathizer among the gods, snuck in another spirit to be unleashed: hope. Around 1400 BC, Moses, considered the author of Genesis, tells us the story of the first humans, made by God out of dust, to tend to the unblemished Garden of Eden. In the garden is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. They again fall victim to their own temptation and curiosity, this time pushed along by the wiles of a serpent serving his own will. Unforeseen consequences follow. They come to know guilt, shame, deceit, hatred, and death. But God's message to their descendants was always patience and hope that one day death, unleashed by the first fallen man, will be defeated by the new perfect man who will sacrifice himself to restore order. 3,500 years later, in 1998, Mark Laidlaw told us the story of Gordon Freeman, a silent scientist contentedly working away in a facility separate to and unburdened by the concerns of the outside world. His team receives a crystal which promises to reliably unlock the ability for humans to teleport. He and his fellow scientists show little curiosity for where it came from.
The administrator is very concerned that we get a conclusive analysis of today's sample. I gather they went to some lengths to get it.
But curiosity towards its potential compels them into crashing their computer systems.
It's about to go critical.
What the hell is going on with our equipment?
It wasn't meant to do this in the first place.
Overheating their equipment and rushing through tests, all the while unaware that they've been manipulated to the finest detail by a selfish serpent. The first man takes hold of the vessel and eats the fruit. Unforeseen consequences follow. The resonance cascade, the moment of betrayal, echoes through myths of hubris and punishment. In mere seconds, the scientific world which Freeman knew, structured, contained, controlled as it was, fractures under the weight of forces beyond comprehension. Through the shimmering cracks, a new, terrifying reality pours in. A world not of progress, but of consequence. His actions, unwitting yet pivotal, tear the veil between dimensions, allowing chaos to drown out order. His creation does not grant transcendence, but destruction. It can be easy to think of Freeman as a savior, stoic and going about his duty as he is, but really he's more of a wanderer in a fallen world. Not to spoil the 26-year-old game, but Freeman's efforts to undo or at least stop the consequences of his actions do not succeed. He is both the inadvertent perpetrator and suffering victim of them. Unlike Pandora, who unleashes suffering, or Adam, who tastes forbidden wisdom, Freeman never speaks, he never questions. Now he can only act. And yet in his silent progression through the wreckage of Black Mesa and the border world of Zen, we see another truth emerge. He is not just the catalyst, but the inheritor of responsibility. He must navigate what has been wrought, not as the wielder of divine knowledge, but as one now tasked with survival, like an animal. Freeman's quests into the depths of the facility are seemingly not done out of noble conquest over evil, but merely that he is trying to escape and is being pulled by strings to achieve the ends of another. The backlash of reckless, rational pursuit of knowledge has reverted him, and soon all of humanity, back to their basest instincts of survival. The game really becomes a masterpiece when you realize that the most human-oriented and rationally designed game of its time was a tale of the destruction of rationality by its own imperfect human hand. The G-Man, a spectre of unknown origin, watches, nudges, directs, presenting Freeman with opportunities that may not be choices at all. Like myths of selfish gods who meddle in mortal affairs, his presence suggests that Freeman's path has been charted long before he picked up the crowbar. And yet, as the dust settles and the story closes, one question lingers. Is Freeman a hero, or merely the instrument of something greater? In the end, Pandora closed the box too late, but left humanity with hope. Adam was cast out, but granted redemption through the fulfillment of prophecy. Freeman, however, disappears into the unknown, his fate dictated by forces he can neither understand nor escape. The myth goes on, unresolved, leaving only the echoes of consequence ringing in its wake. I've only briefly mentioned Half-Life 2, but in the sequel we learn that the Vortigaunts were enslaved by the Nihilith species and sent to assault Earth against their will, shown through the mysterious glowing bracelets and neck braces which keep them shackled. The same bracelets you see on the Nihilith final boss. Who, when you kill, you imagine you've saved the world, only until your puppet master, the G-Man, appears, who likely orchestrated this whole story for his own shrouded ends. As he finally speaks to you, you are left realizing that you are no hero. You're a pawn of fate from start to finish. Much like the scientists of Black Mesa, contemporary researchers push the boundaries of innovation, sometimes with seemingly little care for ramifications. Whether it's the rise of AI, genetic engineering, or environmental manipulation, there's an ever-present tension between technological advancements and their unforeseen effects. The resonance cascade in Half-Life functions as a metaphor for the disruptive nature of certain breakthroughs, moments when control is lost and society is left scrambling to deal with the aftermath. The Book of Genesis also tells the story of the Tower of Babel, when human technology led to such hubris, making them believe that they no longer needed the divine and could in fact replace it. Unforeseen consequences followed. Are we seeing the same chaotic, unforeseen consequences today? Gordon Freeman is the right man in the wrong place, trapped in a conflict he never intended to be part of, a reflection of how everyday individuals must navigate the effects of political and technological revolutions. Whether it's adapting to the gig economy, dealing with social media's influence, or reckoning with privacy invasions, we the people often find ourselves reacting to foundational shifts rather than actively shaping them, left feeling like we are merely attempting to survive the winds of change, while the powerful decide which way they're going to blow next, and leave us no time to prepare by only telling us after the decision is made. The game, in essence, serves as a warning about the eternal dangers of curiosity without caution, of progress without reflection. Technology can elevate or destabilize, but that trajectory depends on how wisely the users deploy it. As I continue making videos exploring science fiction, I will always emphasize that technology is a tool. From the first moment that humans created fire, we have had the ability to use tools for creation or destruction. No tool is a moral agent, only the human using it. This is why I shock many of my compatriots by being pro-gun ownership. The existence of weapons only threatens the innocent if the people wielding them can't be trusted, and sadly these days that's exactly the case. Half-Life therefore is a unique interpretation of an ancient, never-ending story. The narrative of human curiosity superseding morality is primordial, esoteric, something woven so deeply into the mythos of human societies in all times and in all places. Mythical stories are in fact historical. They are the fables told for lessons learned the hard way over thousands of years, but they are repeatedly forgotten when they become inconvenient, only for the same fate to be suffered again. The story of human progress can often feel like the story of Gordon Freeman. It feels like the player in control of him progresses, but ultimately nothing changes, and you're left with the hopeless conclusion that you are not the one in control. Fate is controlled by someone or something which cannot be understood and cannot be controlled. There is nothing which humanity fears more than the unknown, and myth is our only tool to reconcile the unknowable with our curious nature. A world which strips itself of myth to adopt pure scientific reason falls apart under the unbearable weight of this fear, as has happened countless times in our tens of thousands of years of history. And when it happens again, we will develop new myths to convey this same warning, which once again will be ignored by our descendants, and the cycle of unforeseen consequences will repeat again. To me, this tells me there is no progress in the story of humanity, as progress implies an increase in moral gradation. There is only change as we ebb and flow through the perennial conflict with our own fallen nature. Take it easy.